I look at these medals and I see progress. From running one of the world's largest marathons last year on little running experience at all, to most recently, completing my second marathon in the regional town of Ballarat, where I achieved a 45-minute PB. Pretty nice, isn't she? Wait, what's that? Hey, Jack here again, two-time marathoner with a serious love for carbs. Today, I'm going to share my Chicago Marathon training plan with you all. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, Chicago Marathon, here we are. Goal for this marathon is to run sub 3 hours and 30 minutes. So, looking at about a 13 or so minute improvement on my current personal best. The thought process behind selecting 3 hours 30 minutes for the goal time of this marathon comes from the experience in running my previous two, where I now understand what the distance looks like and am well aware of where you expect to start to see things slip or where it becomes challenging along the marathon course. And secondly, and probably most importantly, is now knowing how I can fuel my body to run the entire distance without cramping, but also allowing myself to run in a comfortable mental state. Seeing as I'm trying to take 13 minutes off of my current PB, this will require me to run an average pace of 4 minute 59 per kilometre or 8 minutes and 1 second per mile for the duration of the marathon. Looking back at training for my second marathon, felt I found a sweet spot in running 5 days a week and having one dedicated strength session per week, with a day of rest to recover. And this was a platform that has informed my training plan for the Chicago Marathon. Enough of me talking now, let's get into seeing what exactly my marathon training will look like. I'm opting to train for 16 weeks again, with no additional travel during that period, allowing me to really dedicate and focus on each of my sessions. We start with Monday, being a staple 7-kilometre easy run to absorb all of the long run from the weekend prior. Here, I'm not worried about my pace, my heart rate, or however long it takes me to complete that run. It's just a chance to get the legs fresh for the week ahead. I've also included a home strength training session on the Monday. This will be completed in the evenings and will mainly focus on band work to strengthen my hips, as well as a lot of bodyweight calf raises. Here too, I'll also throw in some core exercises. The reason for including this bodyweight strength session at the start of my weeks is to help me and my body adapt to the training load when I often experience a bit of tendinopathy, mainly in my shins towards the later parts of a marathon program. So I'm hoping these bodyweight exercises will help my ability to maintain the training load. Tuesdays are going to be my quality session days. Similar to my previous marathon training plan, have opted to rotate between two quality sessions in particular. I've decided to bring forward the 2K repeats into my third marathon training plan. However, I'm not doing 4 reps with this one. I'm now opting to do 5 by 2K repeats for this quality session. The decision to up the rep by 1 for this marathon plan is to allow me to get used to running at marathon pace for a sustained period of time. I believe the 2K repeats that I introduced in my second plan allowed me to build not only the speed, but also the mental fortitude at running at a quicker pace for a longer period of time. So I'm hoping this will help me get familiar with running at marathon pace. The second quality session is 3 by 3 kilometer repeats. Again, this is to help me get familiar with running at marathon pace over the 16-week period. Both sessions will include a 10-minute warm-up and a 10-minute cool-down after completing the repeats, with a 2-minute rest between each repeat. Wednesday will be my strength training day. For this, placing emphasis on a lot of single leg work as well as core work to ensure I maintain posture through the entire distance. Thursdays will be an 8-kilometer easy run. Again, not focused on pace, heart rate, or the time it takes me to complete. It's using it to absorb all of the quality sessions completed in the 2 days prior. Fridays will be a dedicated 14K easy run, again to prepare the body for the long run on the weekend and running at an easy conversational pace. So to ensure smooth progression through the program, we'll be starting this at 10 kilometers, bumping it up over the weeks to 12 kilometers, and then eventually maintaining it at 14 kilometers per week on the Friday. A bit of a change up this time with my long runs, opting to do those on the Saturday. There were a few reasons I decided to move my long runs from Sunday to a Saturday. The first is I actually trialed this in the later stages of my Ballarat marathon training and found that overall I felt like I had more time during the weekend to do activities that I enjoyed, including filming YouTube videos and content. The Sunday was an opportunity to rest my body completely and allow myself to do activities that I enjoyed doing outside of running. Second is to get my body used to running on tired legs. As this is my third marathon that I'm training for, I really feel like I can start to experiment with where my body's limits are and seeing just how much of a difference or an impact doing 6 consecutive sessions in a week has on my body. I feel like completing all of my Ballarat marathon training as well as maintaining a mileage of around 50 kilometers or so a week has put me in a position where I can really start to ramp up my training very early and running at a consistently high mileage over the course of the 16 weeks. Another experiment that I'm having in this third marathon training plan is using my long runs as a second quality session. I'm not going to be fully running all of my long runs at marathon pace. However, have opted to slightly change up how I approach my long runs for this current training plan. The first is a progressive long run, starting at a comfortable pace and then working up eventually over the distance to running at marathon pace for the final parts of it. The thought process with this one was to allow myself to finish strong at the end of this progressive long run, knowing that in a marathon there are times where you feel tired, but you've got to push through right to the end. The second quality component that I'm adding to a few of my long runs is having dedicated sections of them at marathon pace. So this is going to increase as my training plan progresses. Let me show you these on the screen now in a bit more detail. Okay, this is my marathon plan for Chicago Marathon, and I know I'm being very old school with doing it on a Word document, but I don't know, I kind of like the process. So as we go over to this section on the Saturday where I have my long runs, here is where I'm showing you the progression in these long runs, but also how I've structured them with the progressive long run, but also the marathon pace efforts with the floats as well. So looking at week 2, starting off at 6 kilometers straight into marathon pace before a 2 kilometer float, back into 6Ks at marathon pace, and again another 2K float to finish off. So again, that one's more working towards running at marathon pace and being able to hold that pace consistently. I felt in my Ballarat marathon training plan, all of my long runs were completed easy. There was no real target set to those. So I think I had 1 or 2 where I knew I felt good, so I decided to just keep running. But for this one in particular, really wanting to structure that quality into it. We go into 18Ks in week 3 and see that this is now a progressive run. So looking at 5Ks easy, 5Ks at 5-minute pace, 5Ks at 4:50, and then 3Ks at marathon pace. So I'm actually bumping my marathon pace right down to around 4 minutes 35 to 4 minutes 45 to ensure that I'm training at a pace that gets me under 3 hours 30 minutes. So I'm hoping that pays off in the long run. See what I did there? We revert back to 18Ks easy before again continuing on with the marathon effort workouts for the long run and then the progressive long run workouts. So essentially how I've structured it over the course of the marathon training plan is to go easy marathon efforts, progressive long run, back to easy, just to allow my body to adapt to the workload. And obviously we're bumping up the distance up to around 25 to 28 Ks in the first 10 weeks, and then really starting to push into weeks 12 and 13 with 32 kilometers and 35 kilometers this time. Now, this big 35 kilometer workout here, I'll highlight it so we can see 15Ks at marathon pace, 5K float, and another 15Ks at marathon pace. This is really just to see if all of this training load has given me the ability to hold marathon pace effort for a long duration and hopefully for the entire marathon. So that'll be the biggest test before I get over to Chicago, which I'm really excited to see if all of this goes to plan. So there we have it, friends. This is what my marathon training plan looks like as I aim to go sub 3 hours 30 in the Chicago Marathon later this year. Be sure to stick around and tune in as I post videos on my progress and updates towards the marathon itself. I'm very keen to share this journey with you all and can't wait to see what happens come October the 13th as I get to the starting line. Sending positive vibes to you over on your side of the screen, and I hope that your running is going well at the moment. I'm Jack, and I'll see you next time. Catch up.